Back in April, I travelled to Japan as the first stop on my North Asian trip. It was great to enjoy the exuberant hospitality of Prime Minister Abe in Japan back then, and in particular to be part of the finalisation of negotiations for the Japan-Australia Economic Partnership Agreement. This agreement was 7 long years in the making, but I am so pleased and proud that we have brought it to this point today where it has been signed by myself and my friend Shinzo. I want to thank everyone involved in this historic journey. I particularly want to thank my friend and parliamentary colleague, the Trade Minister Andrew Robb, and I would also thank Jan Adams and the team from the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade who have put so much professional effort into this. Today's historic visit has been about so much more than just trade, important though trade is. Today's visit is about a friendship, a special relationship which has now been well and truly on foot for 6 decades. Japan is a very, very close friend of Australia. Japan and Australia have so much in common, and I am sure that our relationship will go from strength to strength as a result of this visit and as a result of the annual leaders' meetings that will henceforth take place. There's much more to do here in Australia over the next couple of days. We have discussions with the Cabinet that will take place shortly after this press conference, followed by discussions with business colleagues and then tonight's dinner. And tomorrow, Prime Minister Abe and myself will be travelling to the Pilbara, which has done so much for both our countries. The Pilbara is where the minerals revolution began. The Pilbara has been the source of the iron ore, which has built so much of modern Japan and which has been the foundation of so much of modern Australia's prosperity. So it's very fitting and appropriate that we should go to the Pilbara to pay our respects to the country and the people which has been so significant for Japan's economy, for Australia's economy, and for the economic strength of the wider world. So I think this has been a really marvellous visit. And in conclusion, Shinzo, I want to thank you in a most heartfelt way for your extraordinary address to our Parliament this morning. To speak in such a warm, indeed emotional way, to convey such deep and heartfelt messages would be extraordinary under any circumstances, but for you to do that in English was very, very touching indeed. So Shinzo, thank you so much. I am personally deeply honoured by this visit, and our country is deeply honoured by this visit.
今回、何年ぶりにオーストラリアを訪問できたところから嬉しい。
I am the one that is exuberant that I am able to visit Australia once again after 7 long years since my last visit to Australia. This is my 4th meeting with Tony since October of last year. I have been having exchanges of views with Tony at the pace of almost once every 3 months, and we have been able to come up with a series of concrete results to further deepen the Japan-Australia relationship during this time. First, in the economic area, we just signed the Japan-Australia EPA, which our two countries started to negotiate in 2007 when I was Prime Minister of Japan. Japan-Australia EPA is a crucially important framework to promote bilateral trade and investment, which has a historic significance for a closer bilateral relationship. We will expedite our work so that the EPA can take effect as promptly as possible. We also confirmed that the two countries will closely cooperate with each other towards the early conclusion of the TPP negotiations. Second, in the area of security and defense, we just signed the agreement for the transfer of defense equipment and technology, which we decided to start negotiations in April. Furthermore, we affirmed that preparations are underway for a joint research in marine hydrodynamics, and also that negotiations will begin towards a framework to facilitate joint operations and training, and also that we will be implementing these and other proposals which came out from the Japan-Australia 2+2 Foreign Defense Ministers consultations held in June. Such steps to enhance our security and defense cooperation, combined with Japan's policy of proactive contribution to peace, will make even greater contribution to peace and stability in the Asia-Pacific region. Thirdly, in the area of people-to-people exchange, we agreed to make the flow two-directional in Australia's new Colombo plan and to enhance people-to-people exchange, including university exchange and parliamentarian exchange. Japan and Australia, which share universal values and strategic interests, will be playing even a greater role in realizing our common objectives such as peace and stability in the regional and international communities and promoting the rule of law in global public goods, including the seas and airspace. We were able to confirm today that Japan-Australia relationship has been elevated to a new special relationship by strengthening our cooperation, which I have described. I look forward to exchanging views on the regional situation and other topics in my meeting with Australian cabinet ministers that is to follow. I would like to extend my deepfelt gratitude to Tony, Prime Minister Abbott of the Commonwealth of Australia, and also to the Australian people who have given me warm hospitality during my trip at this time.
Well, thank you so much, Shinzo. And we have some questions, and I understand the first question will be from Phil Curry.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Just a question to you both. Given the sensitivities in our region at the moment and the elevation of our relationship from this visit, I wonder how you both think China may regard the events of today. And to you, Prime Minister Abe, you made some very strong statements this morning in the Parliament about regional stability, and I wonder, are you asking Australia to be a closer ally with Japan than China because of the current tensions?
Well, if I could begin, Phil, the point that I reiterated in the Parliament today, as it was put by our distinguished friend and my distinguished predecessor, John Howard, Australia does not have to choose between its history and our geography. And we do not, as I've put it, win new friends by losing old friends. And what I want to do, what I'm confident Prime Minister Abe wants to do, is to deepen all of our relationships. Now, I also think that our region will go forward together in harmony, in peace, or ultimately it won't go forward at all. And this is the point that I made in Japan in April, it's the point I made in Korea in April, and it's the point I made in China in April. We will all advance together or we won't advance at all. And I am confident that this is ultimately appreciated by all of the major countries in our region. Finally, I just want to stress that I am very, very happy to be standing here today with my friend Shinzo Abe, complimenting Japan on the work it has done in the world over the last few decades. Since 1945, Japan has been an exemplary international citizen, and we will go forward further and faster and better if we look to the present and the future than if we dwell too much on the distant past.
Thank you, Tony. 日中関係は最も重要な二国間関係の一つである。
Japan-China relationships is one of the most important bilateral relationships. So we would like to go back to the point of origin of a mutually beneficial relationship based on strategic interests in order to further improve the relationship between Japan and China. The door for dialogue is always open from the Japanese side, so I do sincerely hope that the Chinese side will also take the same posture. The fundamental position of Japan that we are keen to improve our relationship with China has been fully explained to Tony, Prime Minister Abbott. However, we also discussed China's attempts to unilaterally alter the status quo. China, along with Japan and Australia, should play a greater role for peace and prosperity in the Asia-Pacific region. China to share and accept the international norms and play a concerted role in the region. That is what I am hoping China will do.
Thank you. Well, the next question is from Mr. Kawano.
NHK の川野と申します。お二人にお聞きしたいと思います。
Kawano of NHK. My question is for
日豪の EPA 今日調印に至
two
ったと
prime
いう
ministers.
ことでありま
You
すけれど
signed
も、
the Japan-Australia EPA
一方で
today.
その TPP 交
On the
渉です
other
が、
hand,
締結に向けた道筋がまだ必ずしも
roadmap or the pathway for the conclusion of the TPP negotiations towards conclusion has not become evident. In the United States, midterm elections is imminent, and there are pessimistic views that we can't have a firm outlook for an agreement. Until what timing do you aim for? What kind of an agreement in terms of TPP? Can you be concrete in describing your aim?
TPP 交渉はですね、最終段階に
The TPP negotiations are now in the final stage. Between Japan and Australia, we are seeing a very smooth progress in terms of negotiations. Today, in my meeting with Prime Minister Abbott, we agreed that we should continue to cooperate so that towards the early conclusion of the TPP agreement which is balanced and comprehensive and high standard. We don't have a specific date as target in our negotiations, but Japan would like to accelerate the negotiations with each participating country of the TPP negotiations, and we intend to make our utmost efforts in order to aim for an early conclusion of the TPP.
I share Prime Minister Abe's views on this, and I think that the successful conclusion of the Japan-Australia Economic Partnership Agreement bodes well, augurs well for a successful conclusion of the Trans-Pacific Partnership negotiations. I take your point that these are always difficult things to negotiate through the Congress, and when I was in Washington just a few weeks ago, I heard a range of views from senior congressional leaders on the TPP. There is no doubt, though, that the administration is deeply committed to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and given the commitment of the administration to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, given the general commitment of the Republican Party towards freer trade, I think we are entitled to be optimistic that we will get an early and successful conclusion to these negotiations. Now, I believe the next question is from Mark Simkin of the ABC.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Prime Minister Abe, according to New Zealand's Prime Minister, Japan is planning to resume whaling in the Southern Ocean, but in a way consistent with the recent court decision. Could you confirm whether that is accurate? And Mr. Abbott, if I could ask you to respond, please.
日本はですね、国際法秩序と法の支配を重視する
Japan is a country which
であります。
values international law and order and the rule of law. and therefore Japan will abide by the decision passed by the International Court of Justice, the ICJ. The decision by ICJ confirms that one of the objectives of the International Convention for Regulating Whaling is indeed the sustainable use of whale resources. Based on this, Japan, looking at international law and scientific grounds, will engage in research of whaling in order to collect the indispensable scientific information in order to manage the whale resources. In any case, differences in our positions in whaling should not impact our favorable bilateral relationship overall, and that is the important part.
Well, Mark, it is greatly to Japan's credit that it has respected the decision of the International Tribunal, even though the decision didn't go the way Japan had hoped. Again, this is further confirmation, if any were needed, that Japan has been an exemplary citizen throughout the post-war period and a country which absolutely respects the rule of law in international affairs. Obviously, Australia and Japan respectfully differ on the question of whaling. Friends can disagree on subjects, and that's in no way inconsistent with a strong and growing friendship. But the point I keep making is that the friendship between Australia and Japan is far, far bigger than our disagreement on one particular subject. Now, I think the final question is from Mr. Kuwabara of the Sankei Shimbun.
From Sankei Shimbun. My first question is for Prime Minister Abe. Your trip at this time is the first trip since the cabinet decision on developing the security system, including the collective self-defense right. So before the cabinet decision, before this press conference, when you were delivering the speech at the Australian Parliament, you said that you want to elevate the relationship to a new special relationship, and also you signed an agreement on transfer of defense equipment and technology with Prime Minister Abbott. And what are the areas do you expect the further enhancement of cooperation? And do you intend that such special cooperative relationship in security and defense as you have passed with Australia, will that also be expanded to other countries with whom you share values? And I have a question for Prime Minister Abbott as well. So, limited acceptance of the collective self-defense right. What is your view on this for Japan to adopt this posture?
今回、アボット首相との間で確認した新たな
The new special relationship, which was confirmed with Prime Minister Abbott, is based on the common strategic interests and universal values, and we will further develop our bilateral strategic partnership so that the countries will be able to more deeply, more extensively cooperate towards the goal of building peace and prosperity in the region and in the world. And just a while ago, I delivered a speech at the Australian Parliament for the first time as the Prime Minister of Japan, and I'm very happy that I was able to explain my thoughts. And in Prime Minister Abbott's speech preceding mine, we were also able to confirm our common values, such as the rule of law and the free market, and also the strong bond between Japan and Australia. And on July 1st, my government made a cabinet decision on developing the new security law system. This would enable us to protect the lives of the citizens and the peaceful livelihood of the citizens under any circumstances. It also enables Japan to play a more proactive role in the international community. A while ago, Prime Minister Abbott, you have expressed your welcome to this. Japan and Australia in the security and defense cooperation area have closely cooperated on the ground of the international contributions, such as assistance to damages by Typhoon Haiyan in Philippines, as well as search for missing Malaysian airline craft. So standing on the broad cooperation we agreed on, such as the agreement for the transfer of defense equipment and technology, going forward, we will further enhance joint training between Japan and Australia, and also trilaterally amongst Japan, Australia, and the United States. Also step up people-to-people exchange, and also strengthen cooperation in terms of humanitarian assistance and emergency disaster relief. Going forward, Japan, based on proactive contribution to peace, we would like to closely collaborate with the United States, our ally, and also Australia and other countries concerned, so that Japan will be able to play even a bigger role in ensuring peace and stability and prosperity in the international world. We want to make sure that our seas and oceans stay free, and therefore the rule of law should be shared amongst a greater number of countries, and that is also instrumental.
If I could speak in Australian, as it were, give Japan a fair go. Give Japan a fair go. Japan should be judged on its actions today, not on its actions 70-odd years ago. And Japan has been an exemplary international citizen in the post-war era. These are the standards by which Japan should be judged. Its actions today, not its actions 70-odd years ago, because Japan today is a radically different country than it was 70 years ago. As Shinzo made crystal clear in the Parliament today, the lessons of the past have been well and truly learned, and they will never ever be forgotten. They won't be forgotten by Australia, and they certainly won't be forgotten by Japan. At every step of the way, since 1945, Japan has been a country which has acted in accordance with the rule of law. Japan has been a first-class international citizen, and that's why, because Japan has been a first-class international citizen, I welcome its full participation in the family of nations, its full participation as a normal country in the family of nations. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.